In today's video, we're going to be having a quick look at what's going on with Apple, also New Zealand inflation, and what's happening with some oil drillers in the US. Hello and welcome to another ACY Securities Market Update. My name is Alistair Schultz and I'm going to be your host through today's trading journey. The first thing I'm going to be looking at today is about the Beige Book. Now you may have heard of the Green Book and the Blue Book, some of the other books that we do get from the Fed. The Beige Book is generally a low impact event because the information is covered in the previous two. However, the last time we saw this, it was back in May. And there is usually a little bit of information in here that does give us a bit of a general outlook or an overview of economic activity in the United States. The Beige Book this time around has said that economic activity has increased, but it's well below pre-COVID-19 levels. So we've seen consumer spending really targeting towards vehicles, home improvement and manufacturing. Naturally, with the idea of people using less public transportation, that's why we've seen vehicles go up. People spending a lot of time at home, hence why we see home improvement go up. And manufacturing wise, well, that requires the other two components to really put it all together. Now, it's more positive than what the May release was. However, it's still not uplifting in my own perspective. I think there is still some time for them to get somewhere with it, but we will have to keep an eye on the situation in the US as it exposes itself further. Now, having a look at Apple. Apple has won a court case against the European Union's competition commissioner. Initially, she was going against them for about $14.9 billion as a tax bill. Now, over the number of years that Apple has been operating as a multinational, they've paid well over $100 billion in tax, but in this instance, Apple has come out on top. The whole court case was really trying to make Apple a little bit of a scapegoat or even an example where they were talking about the idea of fair competition. Multinationals in Europe do have a little bit of a tax advantage at times, and sometimes when they do have the birth or the amount of ways that they can get around things such as Apple with multiple companies in multiple countries, and of course the ability to have a fair bit of sway and get out of their taxes, or maybe not get out of them but minimize them, it doesn't help some of the other companies that are working out of Europe who might be more localized and not have the same sort of advantages. So it is seen as disadvantaging them, and that is where the commissioner was going, but it has been turned down. This is still got a little bit of things to go. There could be an appeal to process to occur, but at this stage it looks like Apple has gotten out of $14.9 billion in tax for the last couple of years, or at least 2019. Now, moving on to the next steps, we're having a look today at New Zealand inflation. Inflation has slowed in the second quarter, and in the chart that you can see behind me right now above the sheep, you'll be able to see where the drop is. We did have a little bit of a rise coming into the first quarter. The second quarter has dropped it right down to nearing the very edge of the the inflation target of New Zealand. It is expected to slow further. All the harm that's been generated directly from the lockdowns has certainly caused a number of issues, and now that we're starting to see those impacts, inflation is the first thing to start to tumble. We'll likely see a little bit more information when we see more consumer spending and obviously consumer prices for what's to come next. Now, moving on from New Zealand, we're having a look at a drilling company in the US. California Resources Corporation has filed for bankruptcy. They are an oil driller based out of obviously California in the US, and they are not the only one, but they are the most recent and probably the most renowned of oil drillers to make the cut to bankruptcy in the most recent days. Now, they have quoted that oil prices being low, COVID-19 and less demand across the planet for oil and stricter regulations has all caused them to have some extreme challenges. Now, it's not only that, the factor is we looked at Saudi Arabia, we can look at some of the other OPEC nations, and they don't have the same problems. Yes, they have issues with COVID-19. Yes, they have low oil prices. However, they don't have the same problems when it comes to how much it actually costs to produce a barrel of oil. The US is known to be slightly more expensive because of the need to drill through shale to really find where all of that is, and it puts the prices up on the overall production costs. Right now, with all the pandemic, low demand, and obviously needing to have higher prices to be able to deal with the production costs, it's not allowed them to do so continuously. They're not alone though. It is already looking like a number of other entities are probably going to be filing for bankruptcy. Noble Corp and Chaparral Energy could be on the same path. And we've already known about 200 other companies over the past couple of years noting that stricter regulations are causing the most problems, but they have filed, not for bankruptcy, but for at least some level of immunity if they are to file for bankruptcy down the track. So that is definitely something there to keep an eye on, because we might see a swath of more oil companies and oil drilling companies out of the US really starting to struggle in the coming weeks and potentially towards the end of the year. Now, moving on to the news for the rest of the day, we'll have a look here at the news ahead. Australian unemployment is set to come out. We're also expecting that China GDP to be released later today. ECB monetary policy very much later tonight. And of course, US retail sales. The big ones that I'm really looking for today are going to be on the China GDP. I am expecting a positive result, and just how far is going to be up to the report that we see coming out today. Now, if there's anything from today's video that you've enjoyed, please let me know. Send me an email at talktoal@acy.com. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe to this video so you can get more great content from me and ACY Securities in the future. Have a great trading day ahead.